Platinum Explosion special where myself and Ciaran are replaying The Last of Us and discussing our adventure ahead of The Last of Us Part 2, which is still definitely going to come out. Today we're talking about Chapter 6, Tommy's Dam, plus Chapter 7, The University. Overall, I would say these are the shortest chapters in the game.
I think they're short because of difficulty. Because I remember both of these sections being much longer. Yeah, especially the university. I remember there's one stage in the university I remember being stuck on for a very long time because it's so fucking hard. That this time it was so easy. I was like, okay, this is, yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember if there's been like a boss pulled out of somewhere or like more enemies.
I just think the infested room, the infected area in the university where you drop down and there's just like the fucking spores.
There's a bloater there, and
there's a bloater that sucks because I remember when on my original playthrough having to like calculate like, okay, I'm gonna shiv this one. I'm gonna hopefully.
I remember.
Oh, no, I think I was clearing stuff. I don't think I cleared the bloater, but everything else, I was like shivving stuff in the head or like shooting my bow. And I remember being like, if I miss this bow shot, I have to reload because I don't have enough to do the whole thing. It's, so this time it was much easier. I think I killed everything in that first room because it gives you 1 billion flamethrower ammo and it's like, here, have fun.
Not complaining. As we've said before, enjoying playing on easy. Enjoying this. So there's 2 chapters, took about 90 minutes or 2 hours for me, I would say. And then I also found these 2 chapters quite interesting because from a story point of view, it's like the last section ends, it skips ahead, new season, and then you play these 2 chapters, and then at the end of this chapter, it skips ahead to winter and there's a whole big break. So these 2 chapters are very like secluded 2 chapters in the middle of the story kind of thing.
And it's very different in terms of overall. I think the overall aesthetic of this 2 periods change a lot. Like I feel like the university environment in this game there's no other environments really like it for the most of the game. I think the university feels very open and almost in some places very untouched by everything going on. There's that moment of bliss where you go into the university's like main courtyard. And there's the monkeys and everything, and Ellie's getting excited about the monkeys.
Wait until she sees the giraffe. Oh, spoiler!
Spoilers, man! God damn it! Where I think it feels very open, and the dam's very lush and green, and you feel a lot more open and hopeful in some of those areas.
Well, the interesting thing about Tommy's, I'll just point out as we've been going through my dot points here, right? So, Tommy's Dam begins with you arriving, of course, at Tommy's Dam, and it's been obviously month or so, I don't know, like I can't remember like the exact date since we picked up last with Joel and Ellie, but they've changed clothes like this, and also the clothes Joel changes into is only for this section of the game, and then he's got different ones when we get to him next. So it's weird how they had enough assets on the little PS3 discs to allow the time to add in these new outfits and stuff. So we go down there. You think you're going to have to head further to find Tommy, but then they attempt to make their way through this dam section. And lo and behold, they find out that Tommy's actually held up there. He's now wed a nice young lady. He's also split from the Fireflies to kind of just do his own thing at this point in time. We discover ahead of this that the reason that Joel and his brother kind of stopped talking was over the Fireflies initially, although they never get more into it than that. But Ellie prods enough to get that much information out of Joel. So it seems very much like Tommy was come join the Fireflies, help save the world, and Joel's like, the world's fucked. Which suits his personality, you know. He's like, the world's not worth saving. Right. There's no point to that, blah, 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 blah. And Tommy was obviously the more hopeful one at this point. Tommy shows you around the dam. You can stop and interact with certain things if you want to. You get this part where he shows Joel that he went back to their old house and he picked up a picture of Sarah and Joel doesn't want 2 buts about it. Obviously, it's just still a very sore topic that he doesn't, but it's just so weird. Be like, dude, just, no one's saying you have to look at that old time, but surely you want a picture considering as far as we're aware, he has none.
I guess it's just something even though it's been 20 years, I don't think it's something he has dealt with. Or he has
100%. He's just trying to forget about it.
He's just trying to move on and survive. I think for, the logical thing, not logical, but I think in some situations, he's not in the right place to really put it to rest and kind of, he's in this really fucked up and apocalyptic, place that he's just trying to survive. And I think survival for him has just come as more important than him sitting down and,
dealing with his emotions.
Yeah.
So as Tommy's doing all that, Ellie hangs out with Maria, Tommy's wife, back at the sort of, I've called it base section, I guess, for what's going on here. And then Joel and Tommy explore a bit and they get to see the electricity coming back on because they've actually got the power generator working there because the water's flowing and all this sort of stuff. So it's a really cool setup they've got. They've got gates, they've got power, they've got food growing. Tommy explains how they've got plants growing. It does sound like the pitch perfect kind of scenario in a apocalypse. It's like season 2 or 3 of The Walking Dead where they're at the prison or whatever. And
very much.
They decide they start growing stuff and whatever else is going on there. But we all know how that ends up.
Surprised that that this one doesn't go to shit by the end of this, and they've waited for that, obviously. But
yeah, well, I've got a lot of questions coming into the second game of like what happens to Tommy. Does this pitch perfect life last forever kind of thing, and whatever else happens there? Of course, it'd be really interesting if we get to the sequel and Tommy has a child by the time we get to that point, a young child, and Ellie gets to interact with that young child. That could be an interesting dynamic.
Wouldn't even be that young. They'd probably be like 10, like 10-ish, like maybe 10, 12.
This one's...
Ellie's at least like early 20s by the time.
Yeah, I think I think they've said it's only like, what, maybe 6 or something years. Like, I don't think it's like, it's not like 10, 15, 20 years later.
Because she's only 13. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she's like 19 or something. So...
Okay.
I think I'd have to look it all up. It's not that important now. But either way, that like Tommy could have a child that's around 10-ish.
Yes,
maybe,
yeah, possibly.
Possibly. So then Joel asked Tommy to take Ellie off his hands and deliver her to the Fireflies.
I'd completely forgotten about this.
Oh, really?
Like,
just
I think
the whole thing, or the fact that he's super pushy about it, is just like fucking take her.
Oh, just this whole section for Joel, I've just completely either forgotten about or just subdued this. I remember the major plot points of go to dam, get attacked, chase after Ellie. I just couldn't remember why you had to chase after Ellie or anything like that. There was just no... So, to me, to relive that, and then... It's kind of hard to watch. Like, the second time, I think it's a much harder because I have a very... I don't want to say a set ideal for Joel and Ellie, but I just have my appreciation and understanding of Joel and Ellie and their bond that you've grown because you've got to the end of this game. So it just feels so jarring that Joel is doing something so selfish in this moment. But at the same time, it's kind of amusing that if this had happened and Joel ended up separating from Ellie at this point, the ending of this game would be very different. Like what actually happens at the end would be a very different thing.
Yes, presumably. Unless they all just get, Tommy passes through the university as well and Tommy just dies there. Or Ellie just dies there as well. Possibly. Yeah. You don't know. Maybe Tommy's not as good as a fighter. But yeah, watching this whole stuff go down is quite awkward and certainly doesn't make you vote for Joel, as the person sitting there. You're like, what the fuck, dude? Come on. But it's because he doesn't want to take on the possibility of, like, I take it, especially now playing it for the second time, as he's starting to get somewhat attached, obviously.
Very much.
So he wants to push that away so he never has to go through a Sarah situation ever again,
100%. It's very selfish for him. Like, he just doesn't want to deal with that being a possibility. I think it even makes it sadder at the start of this chapter because the first section of this chapter where you'll get making your way to the dam, there's a lot of, you can tell how close Joel and Ellie are by this point, just through their talking and their interacting with each other and just kind of working through the quote unquote puzzle that is the little bridge section you have to do. Yeah. There's just, it's a lot better and a more bonded relationship now. It's just almost surprising that Joel is still in the back of his head planning to ditch Ellie here.
As soon as he finds Tommy.
Yeah.
So then these people attack somehow. Bandits arrive. I don't know how they all managed to sneak in, considering like as soon as Joel and Ellie try to get in, they got a million guns pointed at them at the front gate. But all of a sudden there's bandits just fucking everywhere. But sure, video games. Joel and Tommy fight their way back through all this though. And then when Joel gets back to Ellie, he's like running up like, oh, are you okay? All this sort of stuff. And it shows you that Tommy's watching that, and it spurs him to make the decision that he'll actually take Ellie off Joel's hands. And once again, I take this as if Tommy's looking, seeing the way Joel is acting with this young girl and going, I get it. Obviously, he doesn't want to go for Sarah again.
Yeah.
That's how
I think it very much is. And especially with, I think that in that situation, Tommy's not only seeing how Joel's interacting with Ellie, but he's also seeing Ellie being Ellie fully for the first time, and her interaction with Joel.
Because she's like, oh, Joel, I did this, and then you see that guy, he went over there, and I did this thing, and then we shot him. And
Joel's just like, whoa, are you okay? Are you hurt? Like, are you good? Like, yeah, I think it just showed Tommy a lot that, okay, Joel isn't just doing this because he doesn't want to. It's because
doesn't want the responsibility solely. He doesn't want to do it from a more personal thing. But he wasn't saying that directly to Tommy. He wasn't explaining, and Tommy kind of pieces it together.
But that's because Joel is just a shit human being at expressing his emotions in 99% of any situation.
Yep. So then Tommy tries explaining that to Maria. Maria's obviously very upset. She starts talking about becoming one of these widowed, like, apocalypse survivor scenarios. I did start wondering if it was actually implied here, like, somewhat that she could already be
I think maybe.
Pregnant?
I thought they either maybe or that they might. I don't think they had a kid yet, but it was definitely implied that she could be pregnant for it.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah. And then 9 months now, so then the kid, Last of Us 2. Coming soon. Find out. Ellie sees all the fighting happening. She more or less puts two and two together of what's actually happening. So she steals a horse and takes off. Joel and Tommy follow her horse tracks to a abandoned sort of neighborhood somewhere far away, and she's in this abandoned house. And then Joel ends up finding her upstairs, and they have a very loud, open fight about what's going on. Ellie actually expresses how she's feeling, whereas Joel does not. And Ellie explains how everyone she's ever known, she's lost. She's starting to get attached to Joel, like really liking him, and then straight away he's pushing her away. So it's very understandable to see where she's coming from. And although I can understand where Joel's coming from, you're still just like, fuck's sake, Joel.
I think it's just the point. I think it's breaking his heart hearing her say these things still. But he just doesn't want to let himself just fully accept what's happening and fully embrace it. And that's why he lashes out and says, "You're not my daughter, and I'm not your father.
Yeah,
I'll never be your father." Like,
my fucking heart breaks.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear that because the bond between them is so strong, and so there's such. It's something that a lot of games and writers fail to capture is the relationship like Joel and Ellie have throughout this game. It breaks your heart even more. I will say, just overall from a gameplay point of view in this game, all the bandit stuff in this part is just so unnecessary. It just feels like somebody's been like...
Yeah, it's adding game when you know they don't actually want it to be a gamey here. I'm pretty sure in a different world where this would be just more of a walking simulator type level, but they're like, it's a video game. We got to add fights of all these bandits and blah, blah, blah.
The section where you have to fight the bandits while chasing after Ellie, and I'd completely forgotten about this. And I was like, what the hell is this? Ellie ran through this already? Like, yeah,
somehow.
Right, okay, sure.
That is the most. Let's interrupt the story stuff to give you a fight because it's a video game. Yeah. And I'm hoping there's a lot less of that in the sequel potentially, in a world where this game's like games coming out these days. Even if they are like action games, you'll have entire levels, for example, in The Witcher or whatever, where there's like no combat and all it is silly sort of stuff and its story and whatever else.
I think we have more hope of that because I think there was more of it in Uncharted 4. There was more just exploration and character interactions in Uncharted 4. So I think that does show some kind of positivity towards The Last of Us.
Yeah, because I'll definitely say that is the sole fun that stands out in the game design aspect of this. Replaying it is just all the very video gamey type stuff. But that whole fight's horrible. I started tearing up, even though I know it goes away, but I'm still, especially when he says the part about you never being a daughter, I'm like, oh no. And then I found it so annoying that they're like, oh, are you crying now? Yeah, we'll fight these fucking bandits for your tears. I'm like, oh, just let me have a moment.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
Well, I think it's a good thing where, like, I've this thing, and I don't know, it might just be like the action person, hero, lover in my head, but I love Tommy's kind of respect for Joel when it comes to killing people. Tommy says a couple lines throughout this that you can tell that Tommy just understands that Joel just operates in a better manner than anybody else in this kind of environment. I think there's one part where you go into a room during the dam section and Tommy's like, Joel, do what you do. And you just
it implies that when they were together before they split, that Joel was just ham killer dude, kind of.
Yeah.
And maybe that was all because he just wanted an outlet for his rage, I guess, at that time. So he just turned into a very violent person, possibly. So
yeah, but yeah, you just it's a chance for Joel just to go freaking John Wick on a bunch of guys in a house.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So on the way back, though, Joel, watching and thinking about everything that's happened, has a change of heart. I don't know if you could like kind of pinpoint the exact spurring, or if it's just the fact between the fight and then like her coming, like listening to her on the way back and just thinking over it, mulling over it. He just obviously has a change of heart.
I think it's good direction to. You could have easily just gone from like a jump scene from the house to being stood over Jackson very easily, but it allowed the couple, like the minute piece of them riding and Joel just like more featuring on Joel looking at Ellie, and just you could tell he's thinking. Yeah, and it lets you know, and I think it's just, it makes like, I think I really like this scene above Jackson. I really enjoy, even though Joel, once again, you can't express your emotions, but he does it in such a way that Ellie doesn't go, what the fuck are you doing? What is with this change of heart or anything? Ellie's just in on it straight away, like, yep, this is what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's not like, oh, sorry, or like, oh, sorry, Tommy, oh, sorry, Ellie, all this stuff. He's like, you take those horses back there, or take this one, give up that. And everyone's like, why? What's going on? He's like, well, I need one to take Ellie. Like, it's just, it doesn't, very bad explain what's going on. So then it's sometime later, maybe a couple days, maybe a day. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Not that long though. And they arrive at this university, which is where supposedly they're going to find a possible Firefly base. So that's why they are exploring here. Inside, a lot of this chapter is, before you get to sections of fighting, is just finding a lot of notes and general environmental storytelling sort of stuff. But then, of course, they do the same sort of thing where they try and break it up with bits of combat here and there instead of just giving a more through line of straight up just environmental storytelling. But anyway, you find the monkeys, as you mentioned, signs of Firefly's life, being there because you find the graffiti and whatever else. And then you find out that they're all either dead or moved on. And, I just remembered the one thing I was going to point out from that last level. That last level is one of only, I think, 2 that doesn't actually have any infected enemies in it. Is the interesting thing. The dam. That was the one, the other thing I was going to point out, but yeah. So then Joel and Ellie find this journal video. I also find it funny when they start listening to the tape. It's like, in my life, I'll bring you right back. I was born on, it's like, fast forward. And then I used to begin to contemplate, I find it funny how it's like starts fast forwarding for it all.
Yeah.
So then they reveal that this dude does reveal that whichever's are left or whatever Fireflies are still going on, they're going to go to their main base, which is now in Salt Lake City. And just as they get done listening to it, a bandit shoots at them from down below. And of course, now's where I was talking about before, where you begin fighting away through a bunch of bandits and so on and so forth. And you're like, oh, this is cool, no problem. Until one of them pulls Joel backwards off the ledge of the university building at some point, and Joel falls off like a full story, I think it is, like 1 story length, and he lands with this pole directly going through his body, which I remember the first time I played it, I was like, what the fuck? Because I'm like, my dude's dead. Like, you know, like, how the hell is he surviving this? And then, what happens following that is Ellie has to prove she can look after Joel in this whole section, as much as Joel's still trying his hardest to be macho, don't need you, I'll look after you still, even though I'm very obviously struggling to even stand and do anything here, because it's a cool and good sequence, because of course the vision's blurry, you have to walk slow, there's this couple sections where you have to like shoot people even though you can't do anything, and even the part that ends like so brutal where Joel like passes out on the ground for a couple of seconds and then comes to just in time to see Ellie shooting some, and then she gets whacked so fucking hard by that dude with like a plank of wood or some shit, and then she turns around and whatever it was, it sounded like it hurt. That's for sure. And then they managed to make their way barely outside. Joel's passes out, and then it's implied that Ellie gets him onto the horse somehow. Although I do question how Ellie, a young girl, manages to get Joel's whole heavy ass body on the horse.
I was thinking of it at the time, and I was like, maybe she like managed to fashion some kind of tarp or something to drag him behind the horse gently or something. I don't know.
No, because it's like you got to imagine there's still some bandits around, and they were trying to get out of there ASAP. So I think you just have to give it a video game.
Or maybe Joel, even though he's blacked out, was still conscious.
Comes too long enough to kind of get on the horse. Yeah,
I think the thing that didn't strike me for the first time playing this, but definitely struck me this time, and maybe it was just because I didn't have the initial shock of what was happening, but was just the sheer amount of blood that was just
coming out of Joel. It's like
coming out of Joel,
flying out of him.
But like just stuff like I hadn't noticed just how when Ellie's helping him after she puts you down against like a desk or something, her arms and like most of her sleeves are just like covered in blood. And I just had never noticed that. Like there's the obvious signs of like when he like slides down like the side of a desk because he's sitting against it, there's just blood streaks on it. But just the amount of it there, and just everything really kind of just sells the desperation that's going on. Once again, remember the fighting the bandits taking a lot longer in the past, so it was very short.
Made it more cinematic though, to not have to like fail and replay or spend ages on any of the fights and whatever. That's why I always tell people just to play Uncharted games on easy. So it's the same sort of like, and if I wasn't worried about trophies, I would probably just play all of them on easy, because I just find it's more cinematic flair, and that's the same, I guess, for The Last of Us here. But yeah. So of course that's where it ends, and then it cuts away to blank, says winter, and we'll pick up that part in 2 weeks' time, because next week we're actually going to be talking about The Last of Us's only story DLC content, which was the Left Behind DLC, because in case you're unaware, that is actually where this DLC fits in chronologically, because not spoilers, I know this whole thing's a spoiler segment, obviously. You should have played it, it's a PlayStation podcast, come on. But Left Behind DLC starts after this part, and then it shows you what happens to Joel and Ellie, and then it's like Ellie then starts flashing back and remembering. So story-wise, it's actually, this is where it slots in, everyone. So get ready for that. So we're back talking about that one next week, and then we're into the last leg of The Last of Us's story content, and we're heading towards the finish line, kind of.
There's not that much left. I think I'm interested to see how much the first winter chunk is, because I don't remember how long that section is, but definitely the later going up to the hospital and in the hospital sections are very short. So
it's very streamlined,
a very streamlined and more game based, because I remember most of that was just dying
shooting.
and dying and shooting.
Exactly.
So I don't think we have that much left at all.
So get excited, everyone. See you next week.